Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Welcome to episode 31 of Apple Slice, but before we begin, I learned something interesting talking to Nick between the South African and Australian accents, and that is the pronunciation of words beginning with DU. So, for instance, I would say duplicate, and Nick, you would say?
Duplicate?
Yeah, and it's so subtle, like the way you pronounce it in my head. Anytime I think of anyone that says duplicate, I think of like an American saying it. But when you're saying it in your accent, it's actually not, doesn't stand out so much because you were saying that the DJ aspect kind of grinds your gears a little, or?
Yeah, but I found a funny one where a lot of Australians say project, but I was watching MasterChef and quite a few of them were saying process, so project and process, and in South Africa we would say project and process. So
okay.
The exact same sequence of letters pronounced differently.
Yeah, because I'm all I'm project, process, like I say pro everything. One that's always funny to me is when people say status. I say status.
Oh yes, I don't say status.
But one I did want to ask you is, okay, if you say duplicate, what do you say for like dual core?
Oh yeah, that would be dual too.
Okay,
like
so the DUA adds the J aspect in.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yep. Yeah. This is just further our exploration of the differences between the two countries. And speaking of SA, South Australia is actually going to get the world's biggest lithium-ion battery. So Elon Musk has come good, well, so far with his claim for wanting to power South Australia with a 100 megawatt battery. 100 days or it's free. He's sticking to that. So what are your bets if he'll pull this off?
Yeah, I reckon he'll pull it off. I don't think he would have gone out there if he, saying that if he couldn't. I think, I was starting to wonder what had happened with this. Obviously, he had said once it's signed 100 days or free. So I was just wondering what had actually happened because, with governments, these things can take a while, but I've been really impressed by pretty much every party involved. And as you say, speaking of SA, it's still got a South African tie because Elon Musk.
Yes, of course. It's all the world is getting smaller. But on a side note of energy, where I come from in Albany, WA, we have a wind farm here, and we're just government's going to be rolling out some initiatives for tidal energy. So it's all quite exciting. All these things that they're building along our coast. So we'll keep you updated on that, I guess. All right, so I want to kick it off with product perception. Before I actually talk about this new Alpine CarPlay receiver, I do have some news of sorts. So this is quite a rare event. I actually ordered the new iPad before Nick did. That was quite surprising. But for me, it was by the way of work. So for work helped me out there. And it is the 64 gig cellular and Wi-Fi space grey, and that is on a plan through Optus. So it's currently in dispatch from Sydney. It's currently in Perth. Should have it tomorrow, and then hopefully shortly followed by Apple Pencil.
That's pretty cool. Did you check if your local distributor had the Apple Pencil?
Not yet. Just funds permitting thing. But basically, as soon as I do find out, I'll be there. And
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm definitely keen to get into things like Affinity, which they showed off. Affinity has been kind of touted as the Photoshop killer of sorts for tablets. So
I'll be interested to hear your thoughts there because I've tried a few different iterations of these Photoshop killer apps for tablets, not in such a professional way that you would be using it, but I more sort of casually photo editing. One of the biggest use cases I find is taking out people or objects from photos. And I've used Pixelmator to try and do it in the past, but I haven't found anything to be like truly really brilliant at it. So like I think like something that had the clone stamp tool, I found that to be better than a sort of repair thing, because often they'll just miss out the fill, and you just need to probably use like clone stamp to replicate that pattern. So
yeah. It's certainly going to be interesting for me because I've always used Adobe products. Unfortunately, I find just with Adobe's iOS apps, hit or miss. You can have something like Adobe Draw, which is excellent. That's their version of Illustrator for iOS. But on the Photoshop side of it, they've kind of split it into several apps. And I think, the power of the iPad Pro along with Apple Pencil is certainly going to, give me more reason to try it out. And it's definitely going to be better than using the stylus that I reviewed several episodes ago. But that's all coming for next episode. Whether or not Nick acquires one in the interim is yet to be decided.
Well, side by side from the episode notes, I have the iPad Pro page open in the buy section, but I'm holding off till iOS 11 at this stage. I kind of took my own advice from my column and just decided to wait until then. I've been using the iOS 11 beta on my 9.7-inch iPad Pro, and I would just feel like I'd be frustrated on the 10.5, given that it's like the newer, better device and would still be handicapped by lack of iOS 11. So I'm going to hold off.
Okay. I'm just waiting for you to change your mind.
No, that's fair enough.
Yeah. No, it's definitely, this is the best part about conversing with Nick, is he can be unpredictable in that sense. It's like, do you predict he's going to change his mind, but then he doesn't, and the fact you haven't got one already, that's surprised me. So, but taking your own advice, it's definitely a good thing. But moving on. So Alpine have launched the first truly wireless CarPlay receiver. So this is the first aftermarket wireless CarPlay receiver. Has a 7-inch VGA display and capacitive touch. That's the same as the current ILX 700 and 007E. Now, to initially set it up, you either connect via Lightning or you can just pair from the iPhone, and then from there it's automatic according to the website. And so this one is called the Alpine ILX 107. It was introduced in January, is now available in the US through authorized dealers. So I'm really, hoping that kind of comes out in Australia soon. Now the two Australian models, the 700 and 007E that are currently out, they retail between $699 and $1099. So this one is certainly going to be on the higher end. I'd expect around $1,200 or something. This is quite interesting because side note, unfortunately, my car got written off in an accident. Not my fault. Everyone's okay, and so I'm essentially have bought a new car, not brand new, but a 2011 car. And for me, that's great because it's the first time I'd have a car with Bluetooth and all that sort of stuff in it. It will be interesting to see just how I go with that sort of setup and whether that warrants actually wanting to buy an aftermarket receiver or not. So, it's, I have kind of cut my ear in the space of these CarPlay receivers, but I wouldn't be interested in any of them that were resistive touch. I just think that'd be too frustrating to use. So have you ever kind of wanted to look into the CarPlay space?
Yeah, I have. I would say so obviously, Apple's two biggest side sections of products are the CarPlay market and then the HomeKit market. So, between the two, I probably look at CarPlay stuff 1 in every 20 times I consider buying something from HomeKit. HomeKit is probably about twice a month that I would log on to a product page and just see if something's new or if I have a use case for something. Unfortunately, my light bulbs are actually like these flat panel lights in the ceiling, like these round lights, and you can't swap out for a normal bulb. So I had actually bought the Philips Hue and had to return it. Okay. So essentially, I would first try and build something around that ecosystem before the CarPlay, even though I really do like it, and I don't think $699 is a bad price, but you'd have to probably get it fitted. I don't think I would be able to do it myself. So you'd probably be looking at $1,000 for that, and just because I take the train into work, I don't see a full benefit in that right now, but certainly if I was still driving to work or not living in Sydney, I probably would have gotten that by now.
Yeah, for myself, I'm on the opposite spectrum in the sense that, I do drive to work to and fro every day. It's being a country town, it's a much shorter drive. I have a 7-minute commute, so I'm able to get a little bit of a podcast episode in.
What about if there's traffic?
That's the only version of traffic is maybe if you get stuck behind a truck in the 80 zone. So, maybe 8 minutes, but I do actually extend my trip to work via a coffee drive through. So maybe a 15-minute trip. So it's certainly a far cry from the kind of minimum hour transit that you get in the city, but, different areas of Australia. And, as I said, for me, actually finally having Bluetooth, etc., in a car, that aspect is new for me. So my want to jump straight into getting a receiver isn't as much because I haven't kind of grown used to having this wireless tech in a car. So there you go. But if anyone has actually got a CarPlay, whether it's a new car with CarPlay built in or an aftermarket receiver, please do let us know. Comment on any of our social channels, which we'll mention at the end, or via our website, applesize.com.au. But what I want to do is shift over to some non-Apple news per se. So anyone who has been listening for at least a few months will realize that Nick brought the Google Home to Australia. And you've had it for around 2.5 months?
Yeah, I thought they had said they were selling them in Australia at Google I/O, but I checked that product page every now and then, and it's still not for sale, so that's a bit of an odd one. But anyway, as you mentioned, I got it in, and I've been using it for about 2 months, so I do use it every day. I still have my primary use cases being in the morning for checking the weather. It doesn't actually tell me my commute time. I'm not sure why, even though it's all set up properly, so I'm not sure what that's about. So it tells me the weather and then reads me the news. I have BBC World News as my top source, and then by the time it gets to the second or third source, which I think is TechCrunch Daily Spoken edition, which is basically a computer generated one from articles, then I usually just have had my coffee and switch it off and then switch over to YouTube on my TV. So basically a short use case of about 15 to 20 minutes in the morning, just while I make coffee and breakfast and sort of chill out before going to work. And that's convenient for the weather mainly. The calendar could be useful if you had, I guess, Google accounts through work, which I have had in the past but don't have now. So obviously a few smaller businesses would, which is quite convenient. And if they had multiple accounts, so that would be useful in the mornings. Then in the evenings, I mainly use it for music while cooking, which is absolutely brilliant. But I find YouTube Music to be a better playlist source from just giving it a genre that you want or a starting song than Google Play Music. If you want just an album that you know you're looking for, Google Play Music is better because you don't end up with a cover version. So I often use that at night, and then also for timers, but those can be sort of finicky, and with my accent, whenever I say, hey Google, how long left on the timer, it says, I'm sorry, I don't know how to do that yet, but I'm constantly learning, or my team is helping me learn. So, it can't ever understand when I ask how long left on the timer, which can be frustrating, and I often end up defaulting back to Siri. If I had Hey Siri working on my watch, which has been an internal struggle, I'd probably use that and just use Google Home for music.
Okay. And so do you think that by you having an iPhone and not a Google Pixel that it has held back the Google Home at all, or is there no difference?
So Google's pretty good at integrating their services across devices. So I think there's no difference. I will say that since I've gotten it, Google Assistant has officially launched on Google Home in Australia. So it has opened up that sort of realm of capabilities, but I don't find myself using them that much. I've used it for arbitrary queries like what the rugby score is, how long do you poach an egg for, which was useful, some of that kind of stuff. But that's sort of one off, and I can't really say that that's added to a whole experience.
And what about because you say you listen to music, so what about the actual sound quality? Is it just being an ambient device? Is it just kind of like you're not really paying attention to the sound quality? Is it noticeably, say, not as good as a Sonos and that sort of thing?
Yeah, noticeably not as good as the Sonos. So Sonos, unfortunately, I've not used my Sonos as much. So it's kind of one of those things where the convenience outweighs the sound quality. So I'm really looking forward to HomePod in that it will be both convenient and have great sound quality. But it's not like I'm using it to listen to my favorite albums often. I kind of use it gimmickly, but almost seriously. So if I'm making pizza, for example, or pasta, I'll say, hey Google, play me some Italian cooking music. Or like play me some Asian restaurant music if I'm making like dumplings or something like that. So I just like play into stereotypes there. And I will say that its most surprising capability has been shockingly to make me interested in jazz music, which has just been bizarre.
So it sounds like that by you switching music to what you're cooking, you need like our own little, Superman phone booth sort of thing. Just quickly change costume, like strap on a black and white striped skivvy and a beret or something, and then switch to, whatever other stereotype you're going to go to next. But I'm just, let the imagination get away with me a little bit. But, okay, the ultimate question is, so you've always been dead set on HomePod. You did previously mention that you were looking at 2. Are you going to be selling Google Home prior to HomePod?
Yes, I will be, if I can get a reasonable buyer. So I would probably sell it for anything over $100.
Okay, and so would that be prior to the HomePod launch? Just for price-wise? Like, do you think that when HomePod comes out, that might drive the demand down?
I would rather have an assistant speaker until, like, I wouldn't want any delay in changeover. I used to have a different opinion, but I think what will really drive the value of mine down will be the official launch of the Google one here anyway. So it's kind of, but I will definitely be selling it.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. The Google Home 2-month check, and we'll see what you think of it after right until December, around the expected HomePod launch, and if you do sell it, hopefully get a decent price for it. But I'd like to switch on to Rumour Mill. And speaking of, when Apple have announced products around December time, of course we have experienced delays before, a la AirPods, and it's looking like there's a potential for a wireless charging accessory for the new iPhones to have a delay. So John Gruber, as we have mentioned him before in terms of the interviews he's done, has a great podcast as well. He tweeted that some sort of inside information that apparently there's going to be a separate accessory for the wireless charging for the new iPhones, and he's expecting there to be a delay on it. The example given, like portrait mode was. So basically, the wireless charging wouldn't be supported until an iOS 11.1 update, maybe. It's all a little bit vague. Now, what he's thinking is that, what some other people online are thinking is that the 7S, so the iterative updates, will ship straight away, and they feel like that the iPhone 8, so the new design iPhone, there'll be a delay on that, expected late October, and then perhaps that this charging accessory will launch alongside that. So there's actual kind of mystery as to whether it's truly wireless or if it's a charging mat or a dock. Obviously, we're very much hopeful for truly wireless, but what are your thoughts on this? I mean, this is kind of like a single report, but John Gruber is a reputable guy, so I don't kind of think he'd be tweeting any old rumor.
Yeah, that's true. I think given the source, it lends a lot of credibility, but it just seems strange to me. I know that a lot of sort of key features or accessories have been severely supply constrained or delayed. I'm looking at Apple Pencil around the launch of the 12.9-inch iPad Pro was almost impossible to get my hands on. AirPods, another one. These sort of key accessories that are part of the 10 points they're talking about when launching the actual device can be delayed. So that sort of lends more credibility for it to me too. But it just seems strange. I guess they are supposedly going with their own wireless standard, so that could be another reason. Obviously, it's not all off-the-shelf parts, and in the quantities that they usually have to ship, it's not that easy. So it seems likely, just weird.
What's your kind of percentage chance on a truly wireless charging format?
No contact?
Yeah, no contact. So I know when we spoke about this, you were thinking that, you were fingers crossed it would happen, but I think that you were trying to be a bit more realistic in saying that it wouldn't be ready till next year, and that this would be a, inductive, so an actual dock or a mat or something.
Yeah, I still think, I do think we're not quite ready for it yet. I have fingers crossed, but I don't think it would be this year. So I'm going to say it's probably in the 10 to 20% range that we would get something like that in this year.
I really, really hope it happens. Just for another thing for Apple to kind of get ahead with. But obviously, then they're not going to launch anything if it's not ready.
Yeah.
But moving on to other Twitter-based rumors, old mate Benjamin Geskin is back at it, and he's tweeted about a rumored mirror finish for iPhone 8, and that there will be 4 color options in total. So, what do you make of this?
Yeah, there have been a couple of things going around about the lack of extensive color choices for iPhone 8. I'm not so sure about that. Supposedly the reason would be to make it differentiable in a more premium way. So this is saying the 4 in total would be black, gold, rose gold, and silver, or the mirror.
The mirror would replace silver finish. Yeah.
But it's kind of, I just think they've spent so much time building up good colors that it would be quite frustrating to go back again. I would like to potentially get the red iPhone next time, or something like that. I just wouldn't like to go backwards there. So I'm hoping not, or at least add more black color options, because one of the things that I liked at least this round was that I could choose between 2 black front phones. So I could either choose matte or jet, and to just have one option would be frustrating.
Some people are thinking that maybe he's just confusing the shiny kind of reflective surface of jet black with a mirror finish based on whatever he's seen. It would be cool, but only if it ended up with just being Fingerprint City, I wouldn't be interested in that sense, because a lot of the images that have been put up have just been those kind of cheapo reflective iPhone cases that just look tacky to me. And so I've just kind of, just from them being associated with the posts about this rumor, I've kind of sort of been put off the idea of a mirror finish. But if it is something in terms of like a nice kind of, like what they did with the iPod all that time ago, like that would be a lot nicer. Yeah. I can imagine a phone like that would be great, I reckon, because something like that didn't leave too much in the way of marks. So that in terms of handling marks,
yeah, that would also be cool in that I would then be able to match it to a stainless steel Apple Watch, which would be nice if you had a stainless steel phone, or at least
could it just be a completely stainless steel? Like, could it just be that? Like, take the stainless steel watch and it's just a body made out of that.
Yeah, that would be crazy cool. Hopefully with the black
probably
front.
More expensive, maybe. I'm
yeah,
guessing.
but I think that this is going to be an expensive phone anyway. You know, they're saying probably like 1,400 American now was the latest, like 12 to 1,400 American dollars. So, you know, certainly is not going to be cheap. And the sort of run of the mill iPhone for iterative upgrade is going to be the 7S and 7S Plus. So, you know, this is for if you really want the latest, greatest, coolest looking sort of thing. And I mean, it is expensive. And if you can afford it. So
I'm still expecting design changes with these iterative updates. I know that everyone's just kind of resigned to the fact that it's going to be the same design as the iPhone 7.
Like mini design changes? Like
I think they're going to still have top and bottom bezels, but they're going to be slimmer. I feel like the side bezels may be a little bit skinnier, and whether they kind of change the actual curvature around it a little bit, but I think it will resemble a 7. It'll just look a little less outdated by reducing the top and bottom bezels. They're not going to go to the edge, but I think they're going to slim it down.
I think that would be cool, but unless they keep same sort of resolution and same sort of aspect ratio, I don't see that happening, just because of that would have like such fragmentation in screen sizes that developers would have to develop for.
Yeah, I'm talking the screen size remains the same. The body shrinks.
Okay, it shrinks around it. Yeah, usually yes. I would think it the other way around, just because they already have like the milling machines and like everything set up for that body. And so they can, the reason that the the SE is so cheap, is that they're able to take that same body and just put it in the best parts with it from everything else, and reduce cost on the body because of the sort of now sunk cost in development. But,
myself hoping for this slight design change is more aligned with my thinking of that there's not going to be any 7S naming, and that they're all going to be iPhone 8, like we mentioned earlier in the year. And that basically this new design model will be like 8 something, or just have a name that doesn't have the number 8 in it.
The naming is really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other kind of conversation altogether. But I think it's more just nothing's wrong with like my 6S design or the 7 design, but I just feel like that it's existed for so long that as a way for them to kind of entice people to get the 7S if they don't want to go all the way to the 8. I feel like that, they could just slim down those bezels a bit. Obviously spec bump and all that sort of stuff, and any new kind of software features that it can handle, as well as not actually calling it the 7S, like breaking that S cycle. Yeah. So
I wonder if they could have done that like just before I guess even when the 7 launched, just so that, like, if they could have done that for the 7, just slightly reduced bezels, top and bottom, and made it a bit more like the iPad Pro 10.5 sort of ratio.
Yeah.
You would think then that people would have been keen on upgrading more so. I mean, 7 has been really popular, but now it just looks so much more dated compared to the Galaxy S8, and it would have just given us like a little bit of a breather in between the major redesign and the 6 and 6S design. But, you know, we'll see what happens. I'm really excited for it. So
I keep realizing how close the event is. Like, there's no actual event date yet, but we're already kind of halfway into July, and it's essentially, you know, the phone launch could be only 2 months away.
Yeah.
And just with all this mystery still surrounding it, it's going to be, unless for some reason there's some real dependable leaks that happen between now and then. I mean, we're going to always expect leaks, but I'm going to have, there's going to be some surprises, definitely.
Yep.
But I'd like to move on to core focus. So the Apple marketing chief has talked to the Australian Business Review on June 29th about the positive response to ARKit. So what was this guy saying?
Yeah, so we've actually seen Joz on stage a couple of times. He seems really laid back, pretty cool. So yeah, I saw this article. It's pretty interesting. It's not very often that we get Australian exclusives, so he was obviously in Australia for some reason, which was pretty cool. Yeah, I would say so. Obviously, the focus of this interview is ARKit, but it's equally as useful or informative about HomePod and stuff around there. So just around ARKit, he mentions the sort of amazing response that they've been getting from developers, and I think we gave them a plug last time, but the Made with ARKit hashtag and Twitter handle are showcasing some of the really, really great work that developers are doing.
Although, on a side note on that, unfortunately, I end up having to, with the article I posted about ARKit under Simon Says, I end up having to get the videos from the Made with ARKit website because their tweets have been disappearing. Yeah. And Made with ARKit have been like contacting Twitter support, being like, where have our tweets gone? So the original embedded tweet videos I had there just disappeared. So I've replaced them with YouTube videos.
Right.
So perhaps, while we're talking about the Made with ARKit hashtag and the Twitter page, the more reliable place to go now would be the Made with ARKit website.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So some of the stuff there has been really cool. As you say, you've sort of written about it, but essentially the response has been really cool from developers. I've gotten more excited than I thought I would be. I still am going to anti-hype any VR, but AR is proving to be pretty cool. Even if I only ever buy one IKEA couch that I use ARKit for, that would still be pretty cool. I saw like a little pillow, like a couch pillow, just, you know, something you would have like a decorative couch pillow being shown with that. It was awesome. Just like plopped it on the couch and it was just like right next to all the other ones. We've seen some measuring tapes, which have been really cool. And so, it was just highlighting how cool the developers, like what cool work they've been doing, and I guess also noting that Apple's noted. One of the interesting things is he said that they were getting in right at the beginning, which I find interesting because everyone was saying they were so behind in AR and VR, and Apple still considers this like to be right at the beginning. And in essence, they're right, because it hasn't hit a mass consumer market, and now with ARKit, as they mentioned, will be on 1 billion devices, or capable of being on 1 billion devices pretty much overnight in September. So that was just being highlighted in the interview with the Australian. And then, as I said, there was some stuff around HomePod, and they did say that there would be new Siri voices, Australian Siri voices. So I'd only seen that being US from WWDC and subsequent, but there'll be new Australian voices. I suppose I could change my iPad voice to be Australian and see if they launched yet. So I'll do that, and maybe we'll tweet about it or something.
That is until Siri says duplicate, and then you're like, nah, stuff this.
Oh yeah, I won't leave it on there because it's just for understanding. But yeah. So as I said, I've been really into HomeKit stuff and looking around and constantly checking what's been added to Apple's page. So in this article, Joz also mentions that they have had a lot of sign-on, and he expects that sort of ecosystem to continue developing and expand even between now and the launch of HomePod. So we'll have more stuff to control by our voice.
Yes, that's certainly. I've had a few listeners asking me about the HomeKit side of things for Australia, and I'm still waiting on there's this sprinkler timer or tap timer essentially that was announced and shown in America, and they're still waiting on a launch date for that. But that would be great to get in terms of waiting for things to come out for HomeKit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think another aspect of the article that I liked was that he sort of says, and as we pointed out in last episode, that Apple have actually been using machine learning before it was fashionable to even call it machine learning. And he kind of specifies that same iOS keyboard hit regions example that I mentioned. Now, funnily enough, he also, because this is all geared around ARKit, and if anyone's read the article I wrote, he said that Apple are not talking about any plan for AR glasses, and in the meantime, or just, their plans for now is to promote ARKit for use on iPhone and iPad, which is very obvious to me. That's where developers are putting all their time and energy into. But yeah, if anyone wants to get my take on the AR glasses debate, definitely head to our website for that.
Yeah, the machine learning thing was interesting because I think a lot of people just see like the, sexy side of machine learning, like AlphaGo from DeepMind and that sort of stuff. But essentially, it has such wide applications that basically any predictive thing it's kind of like the difference between hard coding something. Like they can't hard code every single example of word that you could possibly be typing, for example. It's kind of hard to exactly explain, but there's so much that goes on with machine learning that they don't specify. And since they sort of got moaned at for being behind by the press and behind in machine learning, they kind of now make sure at every keynote they say, well, we use machine learning to do this, but they kind of have, as they say, been doing it since 2007 in the iPhone and just never mentioned it because it didn't really feature in what they wanted to talk about. And now it's actually become a talking point. So, again, for anyone who says like Apple is behind on this, they have access to the same set of resources and human capital that everyone else does, and so I wouldn't worry too much about it.
I certainly think we're definitely going to be hearing more about this at keynotes for the HomePod launch and if they do an iMac Pro launch, because with that entirely being like a dedicated machine learning machine.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's as he said, it's more fashionable to use that term now, and as also you pointed out, I feel like they're going to be constantly bringing it up as some kind of reassurance to the media that they are serious about it, which you and I both know they very much are. Okay, so going to switch on to the water cooler. And the biggest thing that's been spoken about online, particularly in the past week, is what is actually happening with Touch ID for iPhone 8. We've for the podcast, we've tried to hold off on this just because it's been back and forth so much between different sources and rumors. But I feel like now it's kind of come to a head and it's time to talk about it. So there are 4 potential options for Touch ID in iPhone 8. No Touch ID, an embedded Touch ID on the back, a la a lot of Android phones, or Touch ID in a longer power button. So before we kind of dig into details, do you have what's your main inkling now? Is there one that you kind of dead set on, or are you tossing up between 2 options?
It's so confusing. I'm tossing up between 2 options. I find the redesigned power button to be really interesting, that they've elongated that. So I think that there's something to be seen there. So, and then obviously they've been gunning to get an embedded Touch ID. So for me, those 2 options are really where it's at, rather than the removal, or a rear Touch ID.
Yep.
I think Apple everyone says Apple like really is into the accessories market, right? I'm trying to think of the case that they would have. Let's just think that removal is a zero chance, right? It's not a zero chance, but let's just for argument's sake say it's a zero chance. Then we have three options, as you mentioned. If they had to have it in the back, they'd have to have a case with a giant hole in it, a la Google Pixel, which is terrible, and also iPhone 5C. If they had to have it embedded, fine, no problem, but way more difficult. And then power buttons being redesigned, and case-wise, they would just have to have like a little cutout on the side there. Would have no structural difference in the case and not even look bad. Just having like a little, V shape around it, or like a flat V shape around it. So I think that's what their backup plan is.
Yeah, with the rear Touch ID, people were kind of gunning for, well, if they're going to do that, will they build it into the Apple icon? But then again, you still need a cutout. And I just think cutout cases that require a cutout, that's a no-go for me. I'm giving a 5% chance to it, but I just feel like out of absolute desperation, would they go that way? So I really, really hope not. I just feel like the current positioning of Touch ID is so like iconically Apple. It also doesn't require you to pick up the phone, and of course, it doesn't require the case cutout. And just I don't know. Even just like holding my phone in my hand now, my pointer finger lines up perfectly with the Apple logo. So if they were to go and they did build it into Apple logo, that wouldn't be so bad, but it still requires the case cutout. No. That's three other options there. So,
loaded question. Do you think that they'll have a battery case for the iPhone 8?
Well, the iPhone 8 is rumored to be thicker, hopefully indicating extended battery life.
Interesting.
So, and then also, if the battery case, the Apple one, retains the same design, to have a cutout into that thick back would just be like a real, you'd be like putting your finger
amazing.
right in. Yeah, it'd be.
Or if they had a donut-shaped one, like, because everyone complains because it's not just uniform. If you had like this donut shape around this rectangular donut, that would be.
I guess what shape? Don't place it next to your Krispy Kreme, maybe. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to dig into this a little bit. Touch ID removal, that has certainly been one of the bigger shocks to hear recently. KGI, so they are a reputable analyst to a degree. Some people put a lot of faith in them. Some people say, one guy kind of gave them a 40% accuracy rating. Now they're saying, okay, the iPhone 8 will have the highest screen to body ratio, which we're kind of expecting anyway, but they feel like they're going to remove Touch ID and replace it with facial recognition. And Bloomberg has also backed this up, saying facial recognition in place of Touch ID, and ProMotion to be introduced with the iPhone 8, which that part would be great. Now, I'm very skeptical of this claim in the sense that so many people have tested and point out, the iris scanner with S8 can be fooled. I'm expecting, obviously, Apple's version of facial recognition to be more advanced in that region and more secure in the sense that you can't trick it so easily. Now, the S8, of course, has the passcode fingerprint scanner, awkwardly placed one, and iris scanner. So they have three options. So I'm putting a 5% chance of removal of Touch ID. It's just used for so many things that they'd have to have an extremely good and extremely reliable, extremely secure facial recognition option to actually remove Touch ID.
I think that to be able to remove it, they have to have 3D modeling on the facial recognition, and that would just be a minimum. It's got to be. But
yeah,
the thing about it is, like, Apple Pay, what happens to Apple Pay is just, you can't have to look at your phone and then pay. It's just stupid. I hope that this doesn't happen. I really hope that this doesn't happen.
I found myself getting like mad at KGI and Bloomberg. Like, I really hope this to not be true. I've put, as I said, a 5% chance to it. But the more I was just reading into it, it was just like, I just got this vibe from them, like, we're always right. You know, these are the real facts. This is happening. And it's just like, how can you just be so confident that this is a given? And I don't know, I was just getting unnecessarily annoyed with it. So I've kind of written that option out of it completely, really. So, of course, moving on to the main one that we're both hoping for equally is embedded Touch ID. I give a 60% chance to this. This has been long awaited, long rumoured. We've obviously come to learn that it's actually a lot more difficult to pull off. There was a Qualcomm demo in a prototype Vivo phone. This demo was slower to respond, but it still showed that it was possible. Of course, Apple's will not be Qualcomm, especially given the current kind of court debates they've got going on. And as I mentioned before, the positioning of the Touch ID icon in iOS 11 just strongly suggests that embedded Touch ID is coming. It's always in that lower section of the screen in the middle. Everything's lined up for it. It would be awesome if they could pull it off. And I'm feeling like that Apple have just, you know how they said that they're doubling down on secrecy? I reckon they've just gone triple, quadruple level on this. I think / hope that they've got embedded Touch ID sorted. And I just think that they're just doing everything they can to basically not have it leak that it's a real deal.
I would agree with you there because, you know, the most likely situation if they have, as you say, got quadrupled down on secrecy is that it can't be visible to other people in the supply chain. So pretty much only the person that's putting it into the display unit and then, you know, actually putting the display on the device, only that person would really know. No one else would know because, you know, you don't have access to powering it on and checking the software and all of that and actually playing with the device if you're just making it. So whereas if you could actually see that it's in the back with this like silver ring cutout or on the power button. So I kind of landed to removal or embedded in that if that has happened, if it's just a secrecy thing.
But yeah, the other option, which I put 30% chance to, is the power button. So this is obviously a better option than putting on the rear because you would still be able to do it if your phone was laying screen side up on a table. It works well with you just holding a phone and your thumb is right there. And so they're talking about it being longer as in like double height, if you want to say, double the height of the power button, and of course wider to accommodate, you know, more area of your thumb. And yeah, I feel like they'd only implement that if embedded is not ready.
It's really hard to pick what's going to happen.
All right, well, I guess in order collectively from what we're putting the percentage chance to, Touch ID is most likely. Power button is second likely, and then removal and rear Touch ID around the same?
Yep,
cool. Okay, so I'm just going to move on to a new patent. Okay, so imagine if your Mac was asleep and you walked into the room, but you walked close enough that your Mac could detect that you were actually going to use your Mac, and then it woke itself up. This is what is behind the new presence sensing patent that Apple have filed. So basically what happens with this is the Mac is in sleep mode. It uses the camera to look for faces. The image sensor will capture an image and then it will compute skin tone detection, face detection, movement detection parameters. And then it'll use all those to recognize your face as a registered user of the Mac and then wake. Now, variations of this is like the level of sleep it's in. So they're kind of talking about like a lighter sleep versus a deeper sleep. So it's like a half-second wake up versus a 6 to 8 second wake up. And this type of sleep that it puts itself in will depend on how far physically the user is from the machine. So it's kind of trying to judge how likely you are to actually walk up and want to use your Mac. To me, this is crazy future tech stuff. I love for it to happen. The fact that it's kind of looks like it's off, but it's scanning your face, how does that work out with your wanting stuff to be private?
as much as I love Apple, and would hope that they would do the right thing, that would be a privacy concern. Just, that it's being your face is being scanned when you think it's off. But practically, just thinking about this, how different is it to, do you use, Apple Watch to unlock on your iMac?
Since I enabled Apple Watch for auto unlock, I've barely touched the Touch ID power button.
Like, I don't even on your MacBook.
Yep, I don't even think about it. I sit down and I tap to go, wake it up, and then it unlocks.
But what about on your iMac specifically?
Not on the iMac. I as I've mentioned previously, I kind of haven't even really touched my iMac since the MacBook Pro. So
I would be interested to just hear how that practically works, in that, because when I open up my MacBook Pro, it essentially wakes, so then it automatically unlocks, right, with my Apple Watch. But I would be interested to hear at what point, if it's always checking for proximity, or if you have to let's say press spacebar or click or move your mouse to actually get the screen to wake and then unlock on the iMac. So yeah, I wonder how that practically works, because as you say, this is such a future type thing where you just walk up to your computer and it's ready for you. And probably in your profile, where it's actually not significantly different from what you can do right now.
I would love it if it was just the interim step of the Apple Watch wakes the Mac, like the iMac, or yeah, you don't even have to kind of initiate it first and then it unlocks. It'll detect that your Apple Watch is there, and then it'll wake automatically from there, because in that way it's not actually scanning faces or taking images or anything.
Yep.
Yeah, so that'd be a cool option. But yeah, as for me, MacBook Pro all the time, lift the lid, that wakes, Apple Watch unlocks it. It's just I still have to use the Touch ID sometimes, in the sense that if I've only just stuck my Apple Watch on, or if the Apple Watch is on the charger, both work as fast as each other. It's just so convenient. So yeah, it's that was the main part I wanted to gauge of that. Is basically just how you your take on the privacy aspect, because it's not so much like it's taking an image and recording it and storing it per se, because of how Apple currently handles facial detection, content aware, and all that sort of stuff in terms of people's faces. They'd handle it in the best way possible, in the way that it's not going to be uploading to the internet and sending information back and forth and all that sort of thing. Whether they could, in a future version of a Mac that has 3D facial detection, and it just just detects the mapping of your face and not actually taking a photo, using an actual image of your face, sort of thing. That could be cool too, because then that's more just kind of the 3D mapping data, as opposed to trying to match an actual photo of your face, if you know what I mean. So
yeah, when you FaceTime on a computer, on a Mac, they have the green light to indicate that the webcam is on. Mm-hmm. They could have some sort of indicator, because the concern is not necessarily that they always scanning. The concern is that they could be scanning when you don't know. Well, at least from me anyway. So basically that would be a way to just be is my computer really off, or is it not off at this point?
Yeah. It's hey, I just had a shower, I walked in the room, the green light comes on. Crap, jump out the way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of a little warning thing. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of what the type of thing I was alluding to on my article about AR glasses. How do people know that you're actually using the glasses or what you're looking at? Could there actually be a light indicator on the glasses to tell people that, hey, there is some AR going on?
Well, that was the major concern with Google Glass, right? That's what basically killed Google Glass, was that they couldn't quell the privacy concern of someone constantly having a camera right there, right then, and not really being able to know. I think they did try a little light, but it was a different time also. Then Snapchat glasses, what are they called?
No, I don't know. I'm not even. I pay zero attention to Snapchat.
Well, they were very popular for they had massive lines, and people wearing them all the time, and their literal only feature was to record stuff, but had a massive light showing that you were recording. So I think that part of culture change and like not being the first ones in that sort of to tackle that, tackle that obstacle, can make it a lot easier for Apple's, like just changing tack a little bit to enter that sort of realm, in AR. So yeah.
Just finally, we'll switch away from AR just to VR really quickly. So there is a community group called Web VR. Now this is an initiative to make VR content viewable for all. So this is regardless of whatever platform or device you're using. Just recently, prior to the launch of High Sierra, 3 members of Apple, so the multimedia software standards rep Dave Singer, the senior front-end developer Brandel Zakonuk, I think, and WebL spec editor Dean Jackson have joined this group. Other community members include people from Mozilla and Google. And yeah, of course, as I just mentioned, that High Sierra is the first Mac OS with VR support, and obviously combine that with the Metal 2 developer kit. So this is just, while a lot of the focus is on AR, they definitely are keeping involved in the VR space. I will actually see if I can share a video I just saw tonight of, I'm not sure if you saw this, it was shared on the Made with AR Kit page, but it was actually the Unity, the HTC Vive goggles, and ARKit all working together at the same time. So the footage from the phone was of this person with the goggles on, and as they were moving around, a 3D model character standing next to them in the augmented reality view was mimicking their movements. So the movements of the person set up with VR was controlling the character that was viewed in AR. Right. And it just looked amazing. It was like, set yourself up with these goggles on and be like, oh, hey, I want to be, a minion or something. And then someone loads up the minion model, and then you've got a minion right there in front of you at scale, mimicking your friend's movements. Yeah, I'm busy watching that video now, as you mentioned. It's pretty cool. Yeah. It's just all these sorts of, I like that, like the cross interest there between the two. I think that just shows like how much more there is that we haven't even thought of in this whole realm. So yeah, it is really exciting. So be keen to continue to see this grow. Cool. And that brings us to the end of episode 31 of Apple Slice. And of course, for things like sharing of videos and other little snippets, we are on social media. So where can people find Apple Slice, Nick? You can find us on Instagram at Apple Slice Podcast, on Twitter at Apple Slice AU, and Facebook.com/Apple Slice Podcast. And of course, if you haven't subscribed already, just search Apple Slice in your podcast player or visit our website, appleslice.com.au. So just before we sign this off, anything else to add? Well, I hope that you enjoy your 10.5-inch iPad Pro, and I can't wait to hear your feedback. And hopefully you have many happy years with it. Yes, the main part that we were discussing, which I'll definitely talk more about in the next episode, is how it actually fits in with my workflow. So a lot of people are trying to use, or some people saying straight off the bat, yep, iPad Pro is my Mac replacement. Other people are saying it's not quite there to be a Mac replacement. For myself, I'm quite protective of my MacBook Pro. It's still my new child per se, and this iPad Pro will be the newer child. I funnily enough, didn't go the 12.9 size because I didn't want to kind of like encroach on the 13-inch screen space, which sounded very weird to Nick, but it all makes sense in my head. So I wouldn't use sounded in the past tense. I'll say sounds very weird, but yeah, we'll see how you go once you've actually got it. Cool. Alrighty, it's been great having a chat, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Cheers.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.